Hello and welcome back to Supposedly Fun. My name is Greg. I am here with my buddy Guinness to do a quick Friday Reads video. This is where I go through the week in reading and bookish things that happened and anything like that. There's not a whole lot to report in goings on in the bookish world. It seems like the bookish world has been pretty quiet this week. We're at a bit of a lull. Things like the New York Times announced their top 10. There's a bit of flurry of activity like that, and now we're in a quiet period before the end of the year. I have noticed a bunch of booktubers talking about getting ready to compile their best reads of 2021. I'm really excited to see what people choose. I have been compiling my list as well, and there's no decision on this, so it's kind of irresponsible for me to talk about it right now, but I usually do my best reads of the year in January. It's usually one of the first videos that I do in the new year. But I am thinking that there is a scenario in which I could do it before the end of this year. I just don't know, because actually we have a follow-up appointment for Guinness at a specialist on December 28th. There's a likelihood that I won't be getting any more books in for the year at that point. Usually I don't like to do that video until you know for sure that your reading year is over. The likelihood that something you finish on December 31st will crack into your best books is pretty slim, but you never really know. And I just to keep that option open, I usually will wait until January. But I won't know for sure if I'm going to be done with the reading year around Christmas until we get closer there. So I'll probably, if I am going to do it, I'll make an announcement later, but we'll see how that goes. But the point is, I'm really excited about some best of lists. The only other thing that happened this week is my foster son actually moved out. He got an apartment on Tuesday, and today is supposed to be probably going to be the last day that he comes by to pick up some of his stuff before he heads out. Lots of weird, complicated feelings about that, I'm sure you can imagine. And I don't think I have the language to really talk about it right now. There's just a lot of feeling about it, basically. And none of it is settled right now. And I think part of it is that there's just so much uncertainty about what will happen next. And I hope the best for him. I think this is a good move for him. And we will see. But right now, the feelings are complicated. I had always imagined that it was going to be just a bittersweet occasion, and it is, but it's a lot of other things as well. A lot of, maybe bittersweet is the right word, because it's a lot of good things, but there's a lot of negativity as well. Transition periods are really difficult for foster kids, and for all kids, but for foster kids in particular, and this has proved to be a difficult transition for sure. But I think it's a good thing ultimately. Don't know what will happen in the future, but we shall see. Let's do a 3K Q&A before we move into the actual Friday Reads portion of this video. I did finish one book, but we'll get to that after we do the question. This is actually my last question from my 3K Q&A. If you follow along, you know what this is, but if you are a new subscriber, I've gotten a bunch of new people lately. Hi, how are you? Basically, when I crossed 3,000 subscribers, I agreed to do a Q&A, and I did a bunch of really long, kind of unwieldy to edit videos where I went through a lot of the questions, and I still had questions left, and I didn't want to do one of those long videos. So I've been going through the remaining questions in Friday Reads videos, and this is the last one. So let's get to it. It comes from Page Junkie, and it's in two parts. First part is, what type of company do you work for? Please describe your job and what you like about it and anything you don't like about it. So I work for a corporate recruiter within the biotech and pharmaceutical industry. It's a job that I sort of just fell into. It's not something I would have planned to get into. But the good news is that because we work with the biotech and pharmaceutical industry, we haven't really been hindered by the pandemic. Like my cousin's girlfriend was also a recruiter, and she was laid off like immediately in March of 2020. That didn't happen to me. It's just a fluke. And in fact, we are busier now than we have ever been. I'm about to start my 6th year in this job. I mostly do almost like a project manager type position. I work with the clients and the candidates to try to move interviews along, make sure the client is happy and that the candidate has everything they need. So it's almost like a project manager type of position. It's the first job I've had that is not either book related or writing related. And I'd say that is probably the negative about the job. It's nothing I would have picked for myself. Basically, my job history is this. When I graduated from high school, I went and worked for Borders for a couple of years and loved it. It's my favorite job I've ever had. When I went back to school, I got an internship in publishing and then ended up turning that into a full-time job. And I worked in publishing for a couple of years. And that was great. But then when we moved to Montana, obviously I had to leave publishing and I got a job for a radio company as a digital managing editor. So basically I worked with the on-air talent to produce content for the website and to help them find the type of content that their audience would be interested in. And I loved it. Ultimately, the company downsized and I was laid off. And this job was supposed to be temporary while I looked and found something else. And after about a year, I hadn't found something else. And the economy hasn't really been great. So it was really tough to find something. And now here I am entering my 6th year in this job. So that would be the negative. The positive is that I get to do my job from my couch next to my Christmas tree in my Christmas tree shirt with Guinness right here. Jamie was on the couch, but she's not lying in the sun in the front window right now. And it is nice to have this time with them. So that's definitely the plus. The other part of Page Junkie's question is, other than your dogs, who is your best male friend and who is your best female friend? I enjoy your channel a great deal. Well, thank you, Page Junkie. So I feel like you're not going to like the answer for best male friend. It's Joel, my husband. He is probably my best friend overall, male or female, even to the point where when he and I met, we accidentally friend zoned each other for a while. So the foundation of our relationship is a friendship, which I actually really like. So he is by far my best friend. My sisters are like coming in at a close number 2. But we'll get to that. So best male friend, if you want me to take my husband out of the equation, I would probably say my friend Andrew, who I met when I was at Columbia. He is really funny. He's really smart. He is just always there when you want to talk, and he's interesting. He's a great guy, and he is someone who you can talk to about really random things that you can't really talk to anybody else about, and he will get just as enthusiastic about them as you do. Even I mentioned in a couple of videos ago that I had started watching Australia's Next Top Model, Who Even Knows Why, just as an escape from tension. And he hasn't watched it, but is able to talk to me at the same level and just lets me talk about it for a long period of time, way more than anybody else would or should. So he is probably my best male friend other than Joel. Female is a lot harder because I actually have more female friends than I do male. So it's a lot harder in that regard. My sisters are my best female friends. It's Ty. I have 2 sisters. And it's just always been that way because we had sort of complicated childhoods and we moved around a fair amount. So we didn't really have other friends or family members to rely on. We had to rely on each other, and we got very close as a result of that. And that has continued into adulthood, which is very nice. But if you want me to take relatives out of the equation, it's a lot harder. I have a couple of female friends that I can't really choose from. My friends Rachel and Elena, I also met at Columbia, and they kind of fill the same position that Andrew does. You can talk to about anything. They're really smart. They're really funny. Elena is very empathetic, and Rachel is very wise and just fun. But I also have a friend named Lindsay who I met when I was working at the radio company. She lives in New Jersey. But she came to Billings, Montana to train a new employee, and I drove from Missoula to meet her there and help. And after I picked her up at the airport, we went to the hotel where we were both going to be staying, and there were bunnies all over the parking lot. And she later told me that she knew we were going to be friends because I was just as excited about the bunnies as she was. And that's true. She is the friend you go to when you need the real. Like if you need, like, am I being a jerk or any kind of perspective? She is the person who is able to look at what's going on and tell you what she really thinks. And I really deeply appreciate that. She's great, and she's a lovely human being. I also have a friend named Rosie who I met while I was working at the radio station, but she lives here, and she is without a doubt the person you go to when you need somebody to be on your side. She will always have your back. If you are mad about something or somebody, she will be just as mad as you. She's fantastic. And we have a friend in town named Leone who is just a lovely human being, and we consider family. So I have too many female friends to pick one, being honest. I hope that answers your question. So I do have some questions that people asked about having a booktube channel. I am planning right now, we'll see how this goes, to film that video next week. And until I know how long it's going to be, I don't know if I'm going to fit the questions in. I might roll them into Friday Reads videos. So there's a chance this isn't the last time you'll have a Q&A question in a Friday Reads video, but we'll see how that goes. Let's move into the actual Friday Reads portion of this video. Like I said, I finished one book this week, and that book was Chouette by Claire Oshetsky. This is something that was pointed out to me by Chelsea from the Montana Book Company. She said it was her favorite read of the year so far, I guess, since the year's not over. And that really grabbed my attention. It's a bizarre book, but it's a very interesting book as well. It's very much about parenthood, and it's very much about kind of othering of people and what it is to be a parent of a differently abled kid in a way. It's almost like an allegory for being a parent of a differently abled kid or a queer kid or anything like that. And I think because I'm in this position where with the real world and all, I have really swirling and complicated thoughts about parenthood, I couldn't let go and go with the allegory. I wanted to take it a little bit literally, and that's probably not fair to the book. The premise of the book, and this will let you know how bizarre it is and how maybe it wouldn't be for everybody, but if you are into sort of magical realism-esque stories that are allegories, this is going to be a good book for you. It follows Tiny, who at the beginning of the book discovers that she is pregnant with an owl baby. She gives birth to a child that is half human, half owl, and things are obviously complicated from that. She had an affair with a female owl and became pregnant, which is another kind of bizarre layer on the story. And she really embraces her child, whose name is Chouette, and her husband does not. So there's this tension between both of them. She wants to allow her child to be the best owl baby and realize all of their full potential as an owl baby and let them be who they are and accept them for who they are. The husband is at the complete opposite end of the spectrum. He is the villain of the book. He wants to explore sort of radical, increasingly radical procedures and things like that to force Chouette, who he calls Charlotte, to be a quote-unquote normal child and adapt to the real world completely and be like everybody else. And obviously he goes way, way, way too far. But I feel like maybe this is my position on parenting right now. I feel like Tiny is also kind of inflexible and at a bit of an extreme. And if you take this as just the pure allegory, you can see how she doesn't want her child to be forced to adapt or hide away parts of itself that other people might not like. And of course, that is a very great story to include and a story to tell, rather. But I also feel like because of the way society is, as a parent, you do also need to teach your kids not to hit people, not to steal things, to respect other people. There's a certain amount of you needing to teach your child how to get along with other people and be a productive member of society. And Tiny isn't really willing to do that. And I think that's where I have those sort of complicated feelings about this book, because at different parts, Chouette eats the neighbor's gerbil, and it doesn't go well when the father puts Chouette into a school. You don't want your kid to conform, but at the same time, you do also need to teach them. Sometimes the system might be wrong, the system might not be great, but you have to go along to get along. And you have to walk that balance, like fight the battles you can, and I don't know. And I think I'm being a little too literal for this book, but that's where I'm at right now, up here. And I think it kept me from really just going along with the book to a degree. So it's a good book. I would recommend it. It's not going to be for everybody. It's just the way it is. But it was a good book. I'm glad I read it. And it does fit in with that mindset where I just have these swirling thoughts and emotions about parenting right now. So it kind of was the right book at the right time in a way. And I guess I'm thinking about things you do for your children and letting go of your children and ways, just a lot. So it kind of was an interesting book to be reading at this exact moment. And I don't know if I 100% agree with it, but it's got me thinking a lot, which is more than you could say about a lot of other books. Not to throw shade, just, the way it is. What's interesting as well is that Chelsea talked about this book as a sort of allegory for raising queer children. And for sure, you can see where you don't want to teach your kid to hide parts of themselves away because it will make other people more comfortable. But I don't know. I just struggled with the long form of it. So that was the book that I finished. I am currently working on 2 different books. Let's talk about the print book first. I mentioned that I had started Work Like Any Other. I am in the exact same space I was last week. Oh, no, I'm 2 pages further. I went from page 81 to page 82. So I just haven't made any progress. Every time I've tried to pick this up this week, I haven't really been able to focus on the book. So I'm hopefully going to be making more forward momentum over the weekend, and we'll see how that goes. We're actually going to be making Christmas cookies tomorrow, so maybe tomorrow won't be the best day for it, but maybe Sunday. We shall see. I was really enjoying it. I'm liking this book. Seems to be a book that I would recommend and hope that more people would discover. I just need to make it a little bit further. If you haven't followed along, this is about a man in Alabama in the 1920s, I believe, who is sent to prison because he steals electricity for the farm where he lives, and a man from the electric company comes and finds what he did and is accidentally electrocuted. So he is sent to prison for that, and while he is in prison, he is reflecting on what happened and his family and things like that. It's a very interesting book. It moves back and forth in time, so that you have one chapter where he will be in prison, and then the other chapters lead up to his trial, and at the point where I left off, he had just concluded his trial and would be going to prison. So I don't know where it's going to go from there, but I'm enjoying it so far and looking forward to finishing it. That is one of the things I need to get to in order to finish my reading challenge from the Montana Book Company for 2021. I talked about that in my most recent video. I'll put a link to that in the description box down below if you would like to learn more. The book I'm listening to on audio is the same situation. It's something I need to finish before the end of the year to complete that challenge. It's The Blind Assassin by Margaret Atwood. This was the Margaret Atwood title that won the poll I did on Instagram stories. It was between this and Oryx and Crake. I'm listening to this on audio. It's funny because the audio was done for CD. So at random moments, it will just say end of disc 1 or end of disc 2. Please switch to disc 3 and things like that, which is, I understand that they want to reuse the audio, but it's just really bizarre to hear somebody say that in the middle at the end of a chapter. Part of me wishes I was reading this in print form, because the first 100, I'm guessing 100 or so pages, first hour of the audiobook, which I would probably roughly translate to about 100 pages of the book, kind of stubbornly refuses to start forming a narrative. You get a chapter where it talks about, that opens with a woman talking about the death of her sister, and then there are a bunch of newspaper articles, and there's a novel within a novel, but it's not like a strict novel within a novel. It's like somebody talking to somebody else about a novel within a novel. So for that, I almost started to think I might need to switch to the book, and then it started getting a little bit more narrative after that. I'm really enjoying it. The writing is gorgeous. I do think that I'm going to stick with the audio because I can't remember who reads the audio, and I'm filming on my phone, so I can't check right now. But she does a really great job. And I think it was just something where I needed to orient myself in the world a little bit. And I think I'm able to go along with it now. So I'm about roughly 4 hours into the audio. It's an 18-hour audio. So I need to make more progress on it. But I've had more success listening to an audiobook than I have picking up a print book this week. I just made I made most of that progress over the last 2 days. So hopefully that means I'm in or approaching a mental state where I can pick a book back up, but we'll see how that goes. I'm really enjoying it. It is beautifully written. Part of why I do wish, or think I might revisit this in print form someday, is that there are lines that I would love to just write down. Margaret Atwood is a great writer. The only other book of hers that I have read is The Handmaid's Tale, which is a fantastic book. And I don't need to tell you that because it feels like that's been a very popular book in recent years. And I'm glad I'm finally getting around to reading another one of her books. And this is something that I've had in my library since like the beginning of 2001. So I'm glad that I'm finally getting to it now. After I finish The Blind Assassin, I am probably going to try to do The Love Songs of W.E.B. Du Bois by Honoré Fanonne Jeffers. And after I finish Work Like Any Other, I need to do one more book that will complete my reading challenge for the Montana Book Company, and that will be Go Tell It on the Mountain by James Baldwin. I keep forgetting to pull my copy of that book off of my bookshelf. I have a copy ready to go. It's just waiting for me to finish Work Like Any Other. So that is everything that has gone on in my reading week this week. Like I said, it was kind of a quiet week. I'm kind of fully anticipating that it's going to be a quiet reading month for me as we sail into the end of the year and all of that stuff. But I'd love to hear what you were up to this week. If you watched anything, I did not get to The Power of the Dog. I can't remember if I mentioned that, but I'm hoping that either this weekend or next week, I will get around to watching The Power of the Dog. So if you've watched anything interesting, let me know. If you've read anything interesting, let me know. If you have thoughts on anything I've said in this video, please let me know in the comment section down below. As always, I really appreciate your time, and I will be back. Until next time, happy reading.